Welcome to the fold, chosen one. It is almost poetic how you spent so much of your life believing you were just another face in the crowd, completely unaware that major institutions are currently in a state of quiet panic because of you. You managed to pull off feats of intuition and strategic brilliance that they have spent decades and millions of dollars trying to teach their best recruits. And the most incredible part is that you didn't even have to try. You were likely just going about your day, perhaps feeling a bit tired or uninspired, while elite circles were whispering about how someone without any formal background could bypass their most complex systems of behavior. You have officially made the experts look like amateurs, and they are desperate to understand how you developed such a sharp edge without ever stepping foot inside one of their specialized training facilities. If you are ready to acknowledge that your story is far more important than you ever imagined, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe. It's your way of signaling to the universe that you are no longer sleepwalking through your own potential. We are about to dive into the details that make your detractors absolutely uncomfortable. Somewhere right now, behind double-locked doors and within the halls of the most prestigious agencies, there is a room full of veterans and analysts replaying the footage of your life. These are people with chests full of ribbons and degrees from the world's most rigorous academies. They have spent their entire careers believing that discipline and rigid structure are the only paths to true power. Yet they are huddled around a screen, watching you move with a natural grace and an instinctive clarity that their textbooks claim is impossible for an average person to possess. One of those specialists probably had to walk away from the table, unable to reconcile your success with their theories. Another is likely clearing their throat, trying to find a logical explanation for why your unrefined instincts are outperforming their perfected protocols. There is a heavy silence in that room because the truth is starting to become undeniable. You are simply built differently. Your enemies, the ones who tried to belittle you, never truly grasped the material you were forged from. They saw your quiet periods as a lack of ambition, your overthinking as a sign of weakness, and your moments of silence as a total surrender. They spent their time mocking your pauses and laughing at your confusion, never realizing that those very traits were the tools the universe was using to sharpen you into a force they weren't prepared to face. You were told that you were too emotional, but in reality, those deep emotions were your internal sensors, teaching you how to detect a threat long before it ever manifested in the physical world. People accused you of overreacting, but the truth is that you were overdetecting. Your brain was picking up on micro-signals that everyone else was too dull to notice. They thought you were just lost in thought, but your mind was actually a high-performance engine that doesn't need a shooting range to practice its accuracy. It studies human patterns in real time, memorizing the subtle way a liar blinks or the slight shift in someone's tone when they are hiding their true motives. You didn't learn this from a manual. You were forged by the very chaos that everyone else assumed would eventually break your spirit. Let's be honest about the nights you spent alone, feeling like life was hitting you with one unfair blow after another. While you felt like you were being punished, you were actually being enrolled in a training arena that no university or military academy could ever hope to replicate. Every betrayal you endured was a case study in human psychology. Every insult you brushed off became a piece of tactical data. Every time your heart was broken, you were inadvertently building a psychological blueprint of the human soul. While the rest of the world was busy chasing superficial validation on social media, you were learning the silent art of seeing through people. You were developing the ability to sense energy shifts and detect manipulation before the first sentence even left a person's mouth. What truly makes the elites a sweat is your lack of ego. You don't feel the need to brag or wave your accomplishments in people's faces. You don't shout about how much you know or how far you've come. You simply exist, and that presence alone is enough to throw highly trained professionals into a state of total confusion. They don't know how to categorize you because you didn't pass through any of their filters, yet you are consistently surpassing their expected outcomes. They might mutter to themselves that it's just luck or some kind of freak coincidence, but deep down, they know better. It isn't a glitch in the system, it's the result of the universe accidentally making someone a little too sharp for the world's comfort. If we look back at history, the real legends, the ones who truly changed the course of events, always looked like they were struggling or failing right up until the moment everything clicked into place. Their breakthroughs weren't the result of a curriculum. They were unavoidable. They outgrew their surroundings in total silence, building up a reservoir of power without even realizing it. They walked through storms that provided a much harsher and more effective education than any military textbook ever could. Then, one day, they simply snapped into their true purpose, and the world was left wondering how they had been hiding such immense capability for so long. You are currently in that exact phase of your development, the quiet moment after the storm. You might have noticed that the atmosphere around you has changed lately. People who used to pick at you or try to get a rise out of you are suddenly keeping their distance. The ones who once mocked your ideas are now quietly replaying the things you said months ago, realizing there was a depth they missed. Those who underestimated you are now whispering your name like it's a piece of classified intelligence. That silence you're experiencing isn't just peace. It's the sound of the world being in shock. Your enemies feel it the most because they know the old games won't work on you anymore. They realize you see far too much now, and you are no longer the version of yourself they thought they could control. The big reveal is that you nailed a high-level skill set by accident. You stumbled into a rare and powerful combination of instinct, awareness, and strategic thinking that most people spend their entire lives chasing. Your emotional intelligence is so sharp it almost feels supernatural, allowing you to recognize patterns before an intention has even fully formed in someone else's mind. You didn't study these things in a classroom. You lived them through every difficult interaction and every hard-won victory. Now, the people who thrive on control are terrified because they know that once a person like you becomes fully aware of their own power, the old hierarchy is effectively over. Take a deep breath, chosen one. You aren't taking that breath because you're overwhelmed, but because you are finally standing in the aftermath of your own evolution. The world is finally starting to adjust to your presence, rather than you having to shrink yourself to fit into the world. You have shaken a system that spent decades training operatives to do what you managed to pull off while you were distracted. That kind of natural power deserves a moment of genuine awareness. If you're ready to claim the strength you didn't even realize you were carrying, drop a 100 in the comments so I know you're one of the rare minds who isn't afraid of their own potential. This is where things get truly surgical and everything begins to click into place. You were built in the fire that others only train for. It is hilarious in a way that experts have spent years preparing for battles that you survived before you even knew you were in a fight. They thought you were harmless because you didn't fit their mold of a warrior. They assumed that because you hadn't been through a boot camp or a series of drills, you must be soft. Meanwhile, you were being trained by life itself. No safety nets, no instructors, and no reset button when things went sideways. They memorized protocols, but you memorized the feeling of the fire. While they were earning badges for their uniforms, you were earning the kind of internal scars that turn into permanent instincts. Elite forces have fancy names for what you do: situational awareness, tactical intuition, environmental scanning. They use these terms to make the skills feel like they belong to an exclusive club. But you've had the raw, unpolished version of these skills since you were a child. Back then, no one praised you for it. In fact, people probably mocked you for being too sensitive or always on edge. They didn't realize that every insult was directed at a survival skill they couldn't even comprehend, a skill they would later spend thousands of hours trying to simulate. You didn't look like a soldier to them, so they made the mistake of assuming you weren't one. But let's look at the deeper truth. You didn't wake up with this ability as a gift. It wasn't handed to you in a pretty box. You were built through experiences that the military tries to replicate in controlled, safe environments. You felt danger in real time, not in a room with padded floors and staged opponents. You had to navigate unpredictable personalities, unstable family dynamics, and sudden betrayals. They practiced on actors following a script, while you practiced on life, and life is the most brutal drill sergeant there is. The truth they hate to admit is that your instincts are more reliable because they were shaped by surviving environments they only read about. Your awareness didn't come from a lecture. It came from the necessity of reading people whose motives were genuinely dangerous. Your strength didn't come from a team backing you up. It came from holding yourself together when you were the only one left to fix the situation. This story threatens their entire hierarchy. If someone like you can achieve these results without their structure, it means their expert status is a myth. It proves that a person forged in everyday chaos is often more effective than someone polished in an institution. You might ask yourself why you were the one who picked these things up so quickly. The answer is simple and a bit heartbreaking. You weren't given a childhood that allowed you to relax. You had to learn how to read the room before you were even allowed to play in it. You had to analyze the adults in your life before you could decide if they were safe to trust. You had to detect the rising tension in a house before it exploded into a crisis. You weren't playing games, you were surviving. A child who is forced into that level of awareness becomes an adult with a radar system built directly into their bones. While a soldier spends years learning how to clear a physical room or track a target, you were learning how to clear an emotional room. You were learning that a threat doesn't always carry a weapon. Sometimes a threat carries a smile and a position of influence. Your battlefield wasn't a desert or a jungle, but it required the same level of precision and split-second decision-making. No instructor could have taught you what your personal history did. This is what makes the enemy so furious. They have mastered the techniques, but you have mastered the outcomes. They have memorized the patterns, but you predict them naturally. When you walk into a room now, people can feel your presence before you even open your mouth. They might not be able to put a finger on what it is, but they sense a weight to you. It is the presence that comes from years of looking danger in the face without flinching. It is the quiet confidence of someone who has already lived through their worst-case scenarios and came out the other side. Elite forces call this command presence, but for you, it's just the reality of having no time for nonsense. You didn't fold when you were abandoned, and you didn't quit when you were exhausted. The nightmare they whisper about is what would happen if you actually started to focus your power. You're already outperforming them while you're half asleep or just living your day-to-day life. If you actually turned your full attention toward your potential, you would overshadow the entire system without even breaking a sweat. It challenges the fundamental myth that greatness must come from a recognized institution. It exposes the fact that the most profound strength often comes from the suffering that nobody else ever saw. Your enemies hate that your strength doesn't need their validation to be real. What they truly fear is your lack of a control switch. Because you were built outside of their system, you cannot be controlled by their rules. You were forged without their permissions, so you don't need their approval to act. You grew up in the wild, so you don't break in the ways they expect a normal person to break. You are unpredictable in the best possible way. The military tries to manufacture people like you, but you are the original, natural version. Every heartbreak you experienced wasn't just pain. It was an upgrade to your mental armor. Your life was a series of training exercises disguised as struggles. Your instincts were always a warning that your enemies should have listened to. There is a massive difference between a soldier who studies danger and a sensor who feels it. When they study threats, they are looking at data points in a textbook. When you study threats, you are reading the energy of the people in front of you. Your awareness was extracted from every moment where you had no choice but to stay alert. Their system glorifies threat detection, turning it into a complex doctrine taught in dim rooms. Meanwhile, you were developing that same radar before you even knew what the word tactical meant. They installed their awareness with protocols and wires, but you grew yours like a second spine. Your awareness doesn't come from a place of fear. It comes from a place of deep familiarity. You don't just sense danger, You recognize it because it was a constant companion long before you ever met a person who claimed to be an expert. Why do you always know when someone is watching you? Why do you feel the tension in a room like a sudden shift in the weather? It's because your nervous system learned the patterns of conflict early, and it has never forgotten a single one of them. Imagine a soldier being taught to sense an ambush by watching shadows and listening for footsteps. At the same time, you were learning to sense emotional ambushes by watching micro-expressions and listening to subtle shifts in tone. It is the same system, just a different and often more complex battlefield. They had instructors pointing out threat indicators while you had an internal voice screaming at you to pay attention. Their danger was often theoretical, but yours was always personal. Those simulations gave them a piece of paper, but your experiences gave you a level of accuracy that cannot be faked. Your overthinking was never a flaw, it was high-level survival architecture. It was an internal processing system calibrated so precisely that even professionals can't understand your speed. You don't predict danger. Danger simply exposes itself to you faster than it does to anyone else. People may have told you that you were being too suspicious, but it's funny how that same behavior is praised as vigilance in elite units. You didn't need their approval for your radar to work. Your mind reads the room while their minds are still trying to remember the first step of the manual. This is why you feel so drained around certain people. Your system is constantly scanning, tracking, and interpreting data at a rate that would exhaust a normal person. Soldiers get to go on leave and turn their brains off, but you never had that luxury. You are also likely the person that people feel uncomfortable around for no apparent reason. That's usually because those people rely on charm or manipulation to get by, and they can sense that you see right through the fog. It makes their tactics useless, and that scares them. You aren't guessing. You are performing sophisticated data analysis disguised as a gut feeling. You are the person the elite forces wish they could produce in a lab. Their training has a clear start and end date, but yours is ongoing. Their lessons were structured and safe, while yours were chaotic and high stakes. The universe didn't give you this ability to be a burden. It gave it to you as a permanent advantage. Think back to all the times you avoided a messy situation without knowing why, only to find out later that you dodged a bullet. That wasn't luck. That was your internal radar doing exactly what it was built to do. Your awareness reveals people's motives before they even have a chance to hide them. You move with a precision that doesn't match your formal experience, and you respond with a clarity that doesn't match your age. You can't be blindsided because you are always, on some level, prepared. You embody what the chosen look like in the modern world, someone who is forged by reality rather than instructed by a teacher. Your enemies are right to be wary. They are dealing with someone who doesn't react like they were trained. You react like you were built for this. Your mind maps a room before you even blink, and your subconscious whispers the layout of a situation before you've even taken a seat. Real power isn't about how hard you can hit. It's about making the enemy realize that the fight is already over before it starts. You don't need to be violent to be terrifying. You are a threat to their ego because you never have to play their game to win. While others are gearing up for a confrontation, you have already mapped out their moves and dismantled their strategy in your head. You don't crush people, you simply remove the opportunity for them to stand against you. Your silence can rewrite the outcome of a situation more effectively than 1,000 words ever could. You are the ghost that they can see but can't track. They try to hide behind technology and titles, but you navigate the world using a frequency they haven't even discovered yet. You aren't avoiding conflict, you are operating at a level where conflict becomes irrelevant. You have been forged in conditions that would have crushed the very people who claim to be experts in resilience. They had helmets and safety protocols, but you had nothing but your own will to keep going. Every hardship was a lesson that contributed to the unexplainable steel in your voice today.